All right, hey guys, Mr. Kyle, Myers Mathematics, and I want to just jump right in. This is a review for Pre-Calc Semester 1, and this is the second page, I believe, because I think we're starting on 17 or 16 here. But here we have number 16. Let's go ahead and look at it. It's a sinkhole is threatening my neighbor's house. Oh no. Distance from the side point P are shown. Angle between the sides measured is 41.2 degrees. Find the width dotted line of the sinkhole. So the description has zero bearing on the problem because all the information that I need is in the picture. So I can just ignore all of this. I just need the dotted line. So that's X. And just ignore all that. None of that's important because all of that is in the picture. So we just focus on the picture. Well, if I've got this right here, it looks like I have, potentially a right triangle, but I don't know if that's a right triangle. Kind of looks like that might be right, but I don't know. So I can't assume. I just want to figure out what X is. Well, I could use usually either, trig formula, trig ratio, but that's only if I know it's a right triangle. But then there's also this thing with law of sines and cosines. So that's a thing. You can only use the law of sines, though, if you have a side angle pair, and we don't. We're actually looking for X, which would create a side angle pair, but we don't know an angle and a side across from it. So we have to use law of cosines. So let's move this over. We want to use basically the side or the angle that we're looking for that would make the side angle pair is the crux of the law of cosines. So law of cosines is basically Pythagorean Theorem. C squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cosine c. And that's capital C. I used capital A and B. Should use lowercase for those. And C is hard to tell if it's lowercase or uppercase, but I used lowercase there because I was trying to make it look more like Pythagorean Theorem, because normally you use uppercase letters for that. But it's basically Pythagorean Theorem, and then minus 2ab cosine c. So if you can just remember that part and Pythagorean Theorem, then you're good to go. And C is X because the angle C is across from the side C. So it's cosine 41.2. A and B are then the other sides. The other sides I haven't mentioned yet, which is 100 and 80. Minus 2 times 100 times 80 cosine of that. Now, the cool thing about this is that you cannot solve this without a calculator, which means that you're allowed to use a calculator on a problem like this. And if you're allowed to use a calculator, why waste your time with all this math when you can just type all of that in? I mean, obviously be careful typing it in, but that's it. Now, as always, check your mode. Make sure you're in the right mode. I'm in radian mode, so I need to change to degree mode. And then I just type it in. So square root of 100 squared plus 80 squared minus 2 times 100 times 80 cosine 41.2. And close the parentheses twice. Close the parentheses once for the cosine, once for the square root. That's important. And I get 66. So there you go. I don't remember if they said we need to round to a certain thing. Nope. So however many decimal places your teacher is normally comfortable with. So I'm going to just do 2 because that's traditionally what you do is 2 decimal places. Unless you know otherwise. So that's it. Oh, and it's in feet. So if your teacher is a stickler for that, make sure you put the units on there. Numero 17. Number 17. We want to find what here? We have a graph. Okay, got a point Q. And it gives you the point actually. It's 0.161 comma 0. So that's an x-intercept. That's an x-intercept, or a 0. And then point P is at 1 comma 2, and kind of just see that on the graph. And then point R is not at a good place, but I'm assuming that's because it's the local minimum 2.3 potentially repeating, and then 0.815. Okay, so I guess those are going to be important at some point. A, give in interval notation, I can read, the values of x for which f of x is decreasing. So one of my favorite ways to figure out whether things are increasing or decreasing is to imagine a person traveling east, not west, but east. If you imagine a person traveling east along this line, then they're either going to have to climb it or slide down it. So at this point right here, they are climbing. So if they're climbing, then it's increasing all the way to the top, which I'm assuming is point P. So that's increasing. But they don't want increasing, they want decreasing. Well, you would be sliding down the line, whee, from P to R. If you're traveling east, you would be sliding down, and then you would be climbing back up again. Right? So, climbing back up again. So from P to R, you'd be sliding down the graph, which means that's when you're decreasing. And you cannot be decreasing at minimums or maximums, because at a maximum, you're kind of just doing your hero pose on top of the hill or the mountain because you just climbed it. And then at the bottom, you're kind of just like, huh, all right, I'm going to have to climb this thing, because you're about to start climbing again. So at the very top and at the very bottom of a graph, you are not increasing or decreasing, so it's going to be a parentheses. It's going to be a parentheses. So from P to R, basically, is when we're from P to R, is when we would be decreasing. So we just need to figure out when that is. And when you're stating in interval notation, you're going to state the x values, not the y values. Don't get that messed up. So the x value for P is 1. And the x value for R is 2.333. Parentheses on both, and that's the answer to A. Okay. For B, for which value of x is it true that f of x equals 1? Well, if f of x equals 1, remember f of x is y, so we want to know when y is equal to 1. Well, here's all the values where y is equal to 1. This is the line y equals 1, which represents all the places where the graph hits the y value of 1. And it looks like it hits at 3 places. One of them looks like roughly a half, right here. It's about a half. And then there's another one that looks like it's right at 2. Looks like it's right at 2. And then there's another one that's like 2 point something, but they don't have that as an option. So it would be t. There we go. And again, we're kind of assuming because we don't actually know what the function is. But, you know, it looks like 2. So we kind of have to just go with it for that one. And then that brings us to 18. Find the area of a triangle with sides 7, 11, and 17 to the nearest 10th. Okay, so this part I'm going to be a little bit lazy on. There is a thing called Heron's formula. Heron's formula, and it might have 2 R's. I don't remember if it has 2 R's or 1 R, because spell check is a thing. But Heron's formula, that's what you want to use for this. Heron's formula is used when you know only the side lengths of a triangle. And you only need the side lengths of the triangle, all 3 of them, in order to use Heron's formula. But I have this nifty program that has the Heron's formula baked into it. If you're interested in that super awesome formula calculator program, let me know in the comments below. I'm actually thinking of just kind of putting all of my calculator programs into really easy steps and putting them all into this nice PDF for you guys. And I'll have that as a free download. So when I have that ready, I will start mentioning that in my future videos, and you can just go and grab that with a free download of those steps. Or if you wanted to, you could also download the free TI software and then actually download like the program file And so if you want to be a little more techie, you could do that too. But stay tuned for that because that's more to come. Right now, the most amazing free resource I have for you guys is called the 5 Math Mistakes Everyone Makes and How to Avoid Them. And that is also on my website, myersmathematics.com, spelled exactly like my channel. And you can grab that there. Right, so I'm going to go to try area. It's the name of my program. And then what it does is it says sides, angles, question mark, and I have to pick either base height, meaning I have the base and the height, so the standard formula, or I have 2 sides and the angle in between, so that would be the 1/2 AB sine C formula, and then Heron's formula, 3 sides. So I'm going to click that option. Side 1, 7, side 2, 11, side 3, 17, and I get 24-ish. Nearest 10th, it does specify this time, nearest 10th, so 24.4. And that's it. It doesn't specify units, so I don't need to include units. Yeah, so since I kind of did the shortcut method, look up Heron's formula. If you have any trouble with Heron's formula, or if you want to see a video on Heron's formula, just let me know in the comments below, and I would be happy to do a video on how to use Heron's formula by hand. But again, calculators are great. So just kind of let the calculator be awesome. Number 19, 7 cosine x equals -2. Oh, we want to solve it to the nearest 100th of a radian. So we need to be in radian mode. Let's switch back to radian mode here. Okay. For 0 less than or equal to x less than 2 pi, which is a pretty standard thing. They normally do that. Normally, the interval is from 0 to 2 pi, including 0, not including 2 pi, because 0 and 2 pi are the same thing. So, it looks like A, B, C, and D all have 2 answers. So we should be getting 2 answers. Just keep that in mind. But let's go ahead and just solve this. Let me just solve it. Well, there's only really 2 steps I need to do here. I want to get x by itself, so I want to basically do PEMDAS backwards. So I want to try to add or subtract on both sides first, but there's nothing to add or subtract to get x away from some other number. So I'm going to skip to multiplying and dividing something on both sides. Boom. So cosine x is equal to -2/7. And then cosine x is actually technically a grouping, which would fall under P in PEMDAS. P stands for parentheses, but I like to call it GEMDAS sometimes because G stands for grouping, which is like all the groupings. P is just one kind of grouping. If you want to hear my soapbox on that, I have a video on why GEMDAS is better than PEMDAS, and I'll maybe remember to put that in the description below. So check that out, maybe. Cosine x equals -2/7, so then I just want to do the opposite of that, and that gets rid of the grouping. Put that there, put that there. All right, so we have x. It is the inverse cosine of -2/7. So you can just put that into a thingy. We can just kind of write that in to the calculator, and it'll spit out an answer, but it won't spit out both answers, unfortunately. Maybe I should make a program for that too, so it does spit out both. Let me know in the comments below if you want to see a video on that. But cosine inverse of -2/7, I get 1.86. That narrows it down, because look at that. 1.86. It's either going to be A or B. So it's not C or D. And then I just need to figure out if it's either 3.43 or 4.42. How do we do that? Well, here's how. Unit circle time. Okay. It's not an amazing unit circle, but I wasn't trying, I'll have you know. I can actually draw a pretty good circle, if I don't say so myself, when I'm trying. So we have a negative answer, so we want a negative place for cosine. Cosine represents adjacent over hypotenuse, which translates to x over r. So cosine is essentially x values. Kind of represents x values. So positive x's are going to be on this side of the y-axis. Negative x's are going to be on that side. Which means we want our answers to be in quadrants 2 and 3. Those are the two places where cosine is negative. Well, I got 1.86. So notice pi is 3.14. Okay, so pi over 2 is 1.57 approximately. So 1.86, that first answer we got, is between pi over 2, which is here, and pi. So our first answer we got defaulted to the second quadrant. Now, this is a little tricky because I have a decimal answer, but if my answer looks like this, if I want the reference angle, which I do, reference angle represents the angle between the line drawn, which I just drew, and the horizontal, or the x-axis. So I want to know what this is, and I'll show you why in a second. But in order to figure that out, I just need to subtract my answer from pi. Pi minus the angle I just got would give me the reference angle. So pi, and you do this all the time for the second quadrant, by the way. It's always pi minus whatever your angle is to get the reference angle. That's a whole nother video I could make on that, by the way. But I have pi minus that 1.86 thing. I'm just going to type in 1.86 because that's easier than cosine inverse. I don't need to be a stickler for details here. 1.28. Well, that's not A or B. Why? Because that's the reference angle. I need to add the reference angle to pi. If that's the reference angle, the other place where we're going to have an answer is going to be here. This is the missing place. That's the place I need. And that place is pi. I go all the way to pi, and then I add the reference angle, that 1.28 number that you just got from your calculator. And I get 4.42. So the answer is B. Woof. All right, that one took a while. That's not an easy topic. That is how you would solve this. If you've learned it a different way and it takes less steps, let me know in the comments below. I'm curious. Maybe I missed something. But that is how I would solve that one. Number 20, moving on. Given triangle ABC with A equals 11, B equals 15, and C, as in angle C, is 18 degrees, find the area of the triangle to the nearest tenth. Okay. Well, let's draw that real quick. 18 degrees is not very much, so I'll kind of go like this maybe. That's still way more than 18, but whatever. And then 11 and 15. So if this is C, then side C would be across from it, which I don't know. But I do know A, and I do know B. Which means I have two sides and the angle between them, which means I can use the area formula for the triangle that is 1/2 AB sine C. 1/2 AB sine C. Area of a triangle formula. Okay, that's one of the three area formulas, and my program for the triangle area includes that formula, so I'm just going to use my program again. See how amazing it is when you can just use programs for everything. All right, side 1, 11. Side 2, 15. And the angle is 18. Oh, let me make sure. Oh, and I have a note in this program to check the mode. Because you do want to check that. Let me stop this, actually. Let me quit the program. You can't pause the program, unfortunately. So I have to hit second quit to get rid of, to like halt the program and then clear it out. And I'm going to go back and check my mode real quick. So I was in radian mode. I need to go back to degree mode. Ugh, it's annoying, I know, but you got to check your mode all the time. So we're in degree mode again. Now I'll launch my program again. Okay, so try area. I have two sides and the angle between. Side 1, 11. Side 2, 15. And then 18 degrees. All right. And I get 25 to the nearest tenth. 25.5. 25.5. And they don't specify units, so that's the answer. Boom, done. All right, next. 21. Find the area of jam. Ho-ho! Jam to the nearest square inch. Again, finding the area of a triangle. Man, this program is really coming in handy. So I have JAM. I have a side length here. I have a side length here. And I have an angle in between. Look, I'm going to use the exact same formula. Oh my gosh. Just going to launch that program again. Try area. Boom. I have two sides and the angle between them. Boom. Side 1, 8. Side 2, 15.2. Random, but okay. And then the angle between is in 48. I was already in degree mode, so I don't need to change my mode. And the answer is 45. How many? Nearest square inch. So okay, 45. The answer is 45. Oh, is it writing? Why is it not writing? Did my pen freeze? Looks like my pen froze. Well, that's annoying. Let's see. There's a thingy I can do on here. Oh, I thought there was a thingy where you can actually like write by hand. Maybe I was thinking OneNote for that. But it'll come back. Anyways, the answer is 45. So we'll move on to the next one. 22. Give the inverse of each. Okay. So A, B, C, D, E, and we need the inverse. Okay. Well, in order to do the inverse, you need to do two things. You need to switch the x and the y. F of x equals y. BT dubs. So you want to switch the x and the y, and you want to solve for the other variable. It's currently solved for y. We want to solve for x. Or you could do those steps in reverse. You could solve it for x and then switch, or you can switch now, switch it, and then solve for y again. It really doesn't matter which way you do it, but there's two steps, and you don't have to do them in order. You have to switch the x and the y, and you have to solve for the other variable. That's it. That's what you do. So I'm still waiting on my pen to come back. The other day, I had to replace the battery, so it should be working. Oh, wait, I just saw something. Nope, that was a fluke. Okay, never mind. So anyways, that's what you do. You want to switch the x and the y, and then you want to solve. Matching. Oh, it's matching. Oh, it kind of didn't tell you that right at first. I didn't read the whole problem yet. So now I'm like, oh, hey, it's matching. So you can kind of just look at it and tell, for some of them, at least. 23. Give the domain and range of each in interval notation. Okay, the only reason why domain would not be all reals is if there are denominators with x in them. There aren't any of those. Or square roots. Yeah, square roots. Both of them have square roots. If you have a square root, it cannot be negative. It can be 0. The square root of 0 is 0. But you cannot take the square root of a negative number because we would graph this and the xy axis is only real numbers. So, I mean, there is a complex version of the xy axis, but that's not what we're doing here. This is real numbers. So we cannot have a negative, which means you would take whatever is under the radical, no matter what it is, just take it and write it again, and then write greater than or equal to 0, and then solve it for x, and then you have your answer. That is your answer. Now, that would be in set notation. They want it in interval notation, so you have to rewrite it, but it is what it is. All right, I don't know why this pen keeps not working. This is so frustrating. So weird. Maybe it is the pen and not the battery. All right, so anyways, that's what you would do for that. Okay, 24, find the values of x in interval notation for which the graph of f of x equals x cubed minus 3x squared plus 2x plus 2 over the interval of box 2. I'm thinking maybe that was a negative 2 and it just didn't print. Man, you got to watch out for those typos, man. Pretty sure they want to go from negative 2 to 2. It wouldn't make sense to go from 2 to 2. So it's probably a negative. Negative 2 to 2. We want to have that function over the interval of negative 2 to 2. And when it does go from the interval of negative 2 to 2, it is increasing. Round the values to the nearest thousandths. Okay. So one way to do it would be to just graph it. You could also take the derivative, set it equal to 0. If you guys have learned that, this is technically pre-calc, but calculus is up next, and the derivative, at least the basic level derivatives, are pretty easy to do. So you could take the derivative and set it equal to 0. You could also try to factor it, and if you can factor it by using synthetic division, then you could look at the factors, and if they have odd multiplicities, then they would bounce, cross, and then if they have even multiplicities, then they would bounce. But that's a lot of work, and unless all of a sudden your teacher decides that, on a question like this, since you don't technically need the calculator, they would require you to put away your calculator, but that would be very unlikely. So I'm assuming we can use the calculator. Just graph it. Just hit that y equals button and graph that sucker. Change your window from x min -2, x max 2, and just look at where it's increasing. And then just go from there. So that's what I would do for that one. And I apologize for not being able to finish off these last few, as in writing them out and just explaining them out loud instead of being able to write them. But my pen decided to die on me again, and I just replaced the battery on this. So I am going to be visiting Best Buy and buying another one, or from Amazon. I don't know. Maybe Amazon. Maybe I'll wait. Maybe I'll do both. There are 2 backups. But anyways, I digress. Hopefully that was helpful. If it was, like, subscribe, all that good stuff that YouTubers try to say. I don't care about being a famous YouTuber, but I just want this to be helpful to someone, somewhere. So hopefully it was. And I will see you guys again in another episode real soon. This was a bonus video, just because.